Picking up from where we left off, I typed a really long recap. Then some other stuff happened. Gallows Calibrator helped John fly to the second gate, which took him to Rose's world, Lolar. He crashed into Rose's room where he found her asleep. He snooped through her room and Dave tricked him into giving him the code to duplicate Rose's writing journals. John opened the package Rose made for his birthday. It contained the bunny from Con Air, the same one John got from Dave, but older and dirtier, and modified with Rose's knitting. She'd had the bunny since she was very young.
John leaves Casey the Salamander, aka Bubbles Viceroy von Salamancer, in the room. He briefly speaks with GA, Grim Auxiliatrix, from Rose's computer, and pretends to be Rose. She believes he is, triggering a convoluted series of conversations between her and the real Rose in both the past and future, in no particular order. GA gets help with her computer from TA, Twin Armageddons, in time to see Rose at her computer, having woken up.
Before she woke up, Dream Rose was awake on Dursa's moon. She now had memories from her future self's doomed alternate reality. She flew to Dream Dave's tower and got his attention with a ball of yarn, causing real Dave to fall asleep. They had a dream dance party. Dream Rose threw Dream Cal out the window. Bro's rocket board caught Dream Cal. AR followed the board and Cal to a transportalizer on Durse, which led to a meteor lab in the Veil.
Meanwhile on Lolar, Rose's mom defeated a huge monster. The pony Maplehoof followed her and collected the grist windfall. Both Mom and the pony then transported to the meteor lab. John's dad found a clean hat John had deposited into a parcel Pixis. Dad followed Jade's grandpa, who was carrying John's Sassacre book, into some ruins. They both transported to the meteor lab too. Meanwhile, John used the grist collected by the pony to make a normal-sized version of the giant hammer Fear No Anvil, which Dave's sprite gave him the code for. Dream Rose saw John on Dream Dave's computer and woke up. She went out to see him, but he had already blasted off. He took the mutant kitten, Vodka Mutini, Dr. Meowgan Spengler, with him.
John found the ruins that Mom and the pony went into. He went in and killed some powerful monsters with his new hammer. He transported to the meteor lab as well.
In the lab, he found no one except the pony. Some other stray items were on the floor. Dad's dirty hat, the Sassacre book, Dream Cal. He found some apparatus used to genetically engineer foot soldiers and agents for the white and black armies from chest piece DNA. He also found a junior ectobiologist's lab suit and a series of terminals much like those the exiles would find in the far future. He would use this apparatus to create paradox clones of himself, his friends, and their guardians.
Meanwhile, Authority Regulator served Bro's rocket board to a different meteor containing the frog temple that would later root itself near Jade's island. Inside, he found the same time capsule she would find later. He also found some more lab equipment used for ectobiology. This equipment would soon be used to create Beckworld, a mutated combination of the gene from an ordinary dog in the early 20th century and the DNA code in one of Rose's journals. Authority Regulator hides in the lab when he hears one of Jack's henchmen, the Draconian dignitary. DD is carrying Rose's duplicated journals, which he stole from Dave, and Dave's beta, which was used as a bookmark. He discards the beta into the time capsule. Millions of years later, from the capsule's perspective, Jade would retrieve that beta and use it to connect with Dave, allowing him to enter the medium.
Dave created the journal duplicates after an extensive alchemy binge. Rose too had a similar alchemy session, and both kids upgraded their weapons and gear. Rose made a pair of needle wands crossed with her grimoire, and took up the art of dark magic. She used this magic to burn her journal, thus destroying the genetic code. She was advised to do so by the gods of the furthest ring, whom she was now able to communicate with in her dreams. The gods live far beyond the Veil, and advise the children of the moon of Durse, and serve as the counterpoint to the role Skya plays for the children of Crossfit's moon. They deemed the code which would inevitably be used to create Beckworld to be dangerous.
Dave decided to destroy his copy too, but when he went back to his room, he discovered they were stolen. He also found his own dead body, which apparently was him from the very near future, attempting to go back in time and stop the thief, DD. Dave decided not to attempt any more time travel and disposed of the body. GC discussed the matter with him and pledged to help him by telling him his future along the way so that he would not have to face the death of any more future selves or suffer the sort of embarrassment he went through while entering the medium.
Previously unseen, the way Dave entered the medium was as follows. As the large meteor was bearing down on his city, Dave climbed the radio tower on top of his building with his broken sword in hand to reach the nest built by the crow sprite. The sprite guarded the egg, which, unknown to Dave, simply needed time to hatch before he could enter. The sprite pecked his head and he fell. He was saved by Bro's rocket board. Meanwhile, Bro was on top of the meteor, riding it as it descended. He used his sword to chop it in half, splitting it into 2 pieces, diverting the initial impact from their building to 2 separate impact sites. He thus bought a little more time for the egg to hatch, which it did just before their location was consumed by the blasts.
On Prospect's moon, PM prepared to depart for the battlefield at the center of Skya to seek the King's counsel on what to do with the Queen's ring. She was tailed by another of Noir's lackeys, the Courtyard Droll. Courtyard Droll picked her pocket and stole the ring. PM departed via shuttle to Skya. Dream Jade then clobbered Courtyard Droll and recovered the ring. She tried it on, but its powers had no effect on humans. Later, Courtyard Droll would travel to the battlefield and continue trailing PM.
The battlefield is a planet at the center of Skya. It undergoes a transformation with each player that enters the medium and each new prototyped kernel introduced. It starts as a simple 3x3 chessboard with 2 kings in perpetual stalemate, and expands to a larger board and more exotic collection of pieces with the first player entering. Then it becomes a much larger cube with the second player, and then an even larger sphere with oceans, trees, mountains and pastures with the third. It presumably will transform again with the fourth.
The armies of the Black and White Kingdoms duel there. Soldiers are airlifted from meteor facilities in the Vale to supply the manpower. Enormous mutant chest-like monsters stalk the landscape. The 2 kings command their armies from the field. They each have a scepter that serves a similar purpose to the Queen's rings. When activated, a scepter causes a king to be a giant and bear the properties of all the prototypings. A king is able to deactivate a scepter to hand it off to another so that they will not be affected in that way. When the Black King captures the White King's scepter, the reckoning begins. The reckoning sends all the meteors in the Vale towards Skya in stages. First, the small ones, then gradually, the bigger ones over a 24-hour period.
There was a war-weary villain on the battlefield who was a simple farmer and was tired of the conflict. WV united a band of soldiers from both armies to lead a rebellion against the Black King. Before they could attack the king, Jack Noir, now empowered by the Black Queen's ring, intercepted the coup. He destroyed the king's scepter and killed the king. Jack then killed the entire rebellion army, sparing only WV. Perhaps to leave a survivor to tell the story, or perhaps out of respect for a fellow mutineer. Only he knows. Meanwhile, PM met with the White King. He disabled his scepter and gave it to her, along with his crown. PM now had the crowns of the White King and Queen, and the White Scepter, but discovered she had misplaced the White Queen's ring. Jack's muscle, the hegemonic brute, had been tailing the White King. HB then followed PM and attacked her. She dropped the scepter off a cliff. She would regroup and chop off HB's head with the Regisword Jack gave her to kill the White Monarchs. CD, who had been tailing both of them, recovered the White Scepter and delivered it to Jack. Jack used it to initiate the Reckoning, and would proceed to go on a more extensive rampage, devastating the battlefield and Prospect.
Back in the Meteor Lab, John began the ectobiology session, which appeared to have been prepared for him in advance by the Guardians who had just been there. The 4 monitors were all locked onto the kids' guardians at certain points in time, each on the day of one of the kids' birth. On Jade's birthday, Nana was locked onto in John's neighborhood by the Betty Crocker factory. The meteor carrying baby Jade crashed into the factory and destroyed it. Her grandpa, the owner of that factory, would adopt her. John's dad witnessed and would spend years investigating. On Dave's birthday, Grandpa was locked onto while he was on his yacht, pioneering the island for the first time. He was sailing with baby Jade. Overhead, there was a meteor carrying baby Dave, which would crash into Bro's favorite record shop. On Rose's birthday, Bro was locked onto as he stood over the crater where he would find baby Dave. He would give him a tiny pair of pointy shades. Overhead, there was a meteor carrying baby Rose, which would land in a lake and destroy it. Rose's mom would retrieve and adopt her. Months later, on John's birthday, Mom would bring Rose to John's neighborhood to investigate the destruction of Grandpa's factory and related stellar phenomena. The target was locked onto her. Dad came out of the family joke shop to greet her, leaving Nana inside. The meteor-carrying baby John destroyed the shop, killing Nana. Dad would adopt John, and Rose's mom disappeared. Dad retrieved her scarf and filed the clue away for his ongoing investigation.
John attempted unwittingly to appearify all four guardians, but since removing them from those moments would have caused a paradox, he instead paradoxified their ghost slime imprints. This slime was collected into two pairs of containers. One pair collected Nana and Grandpa's slime, the other pair collected Mom and Bro's. The device then created baby paradox clones of the four guardians. These babies would then later be sent back in time to become those guardians themselves.
Once those 4 clones were created, another sequence activated. The 2 pairs of slime tubes emptied into vats below. The Nana Grandpa slime mixed together, and separately the Mom Bro slime mixed together as well. An additional 4 paradox clones were created from those 2 slime concoctions. Baby John and Jade were created from the Nana Grandpa slime. Baby Rose and Dave were created from the Mom Bro slime. These 4 babies would also go back in time to become the 4 kids via meteors in the sequence and on the dates listed above.
All 8 babies would each ride their own meteors, launched from the Veil after Jack started the Reckoning, and into the defense portals deployed by Skya to protect itself. The defense portals would each lead to Earth as Skya defends itself, in a way, by sacrificing Earth. While most meteors are sent to the time period when the kids began the game, many led to a number of different time periods. Some 13 years prior to the game, used by the kids, some nearly a century prior, used by Nana and Grandpa, some millions of years ago, used eventually by the Frog Temple meteor, and some to the far future, used by the Exiles.
All 8 of them would travel with an object or animal. John with his Sassacre book, which would become the much older-looking family heirloom stored in Dad's safe, with Nana Sprite's inscription to John on it. Rose with the dirty bunny Dave gave John for his birthday. Dave with the pony Maplehoof. Jade with the knit-repaired bunny Rose got John for his birthday, which Rose cherished since birth. Nana with Dad's dirty hat. Mom with Mutini, also known as Mugon. Grandpa with 2 flintlock pistols, which older Grandpa left behind for him in the lab, which would eventually both wind up in Jade's room. And Bro with Dream Cal, which would later be fitted with a new personalized shirt and would become Real Cal, the same doll that would haunt Dave's waking life and consequently his dreams.
All of these babies and their items would automatically be transported to their own meteors at the onset of the Reckoning. John made absolutely sure to give Baby Rose and Jade their bunnies when he saw an opportunity to reenact a scene from one of his favorite movies, much to the dismay of a watching carcinogeneticist.
While AR was in the Frog Temple lab, he would see more of young Nana and Grandpa's story. On April 13th, 1910, exactly 99 years prior to John's birth, baby Nana's meteor destroyed a bakery owned by Betty Crocker. Nana was adopted by Crocker's husband, Colonel Sassacre, and taken to live in his mansion. 8 days later, Grandpa's meteor destroyed the doghouse belonging to Sassacre's dog, Haley. Haley was elsewhere and was unharmed. When Sassacre and Nana went to investigate the crater, Sassacre was shot and killed accidentally with one of Grandpa's pistols. Haley then showed up, who young Grandpa would tend to pronounce Harley due to his speech impediment, and would largely serve as their guardian for the next 13 years, with presumably some parental influence from the wicked Crocker. On his 13th birthday, Grandpa would run off with Harley to find adventure. Nana would stay behind to contend with the Batter Witch, and master the art of baking, as well as take up her deceased grandfather's tradition of pranksterism.
Harley was locked onto by the Frog Temple's equipment. Draconian Dignitary activated the device and produced a paradox clone of Harley combined with the controversial Meow code to create Puppy Beck. The spectacle terrified AR, leaving a major impression on him. He would recognize Beck's silhouette carved on Wayward Vagabond's pumpkin years later. The pumpkin commanded his fear and caused him to surrender.
Meanwhile, the grown-up versions of Mom and Dad were on board a flying battleship belonging to Grandpa, who piloted it towards Skya. Dad gave Mom her long-discarded scarf from the day he lost his mother and found his son. The 2 guardians traded gestures of affection.
Jade remained asleep through it all, trying to stay on the moon as long as she could until she figured out how to wake John up. She talked about this with AT, Adios Toreador, who revealed he preferred his dream life on Prospect more than any aspect of the game, and regretted all the trolls' dream selves were now dead. Jade expressed surprise at the notion of dream self-mortality.
After Jack used the full power of the ring to devastate the battlefield and the two armies, he turned his attention on Prospit, inflicting severe damage the same way. He then cut the chain connecting the moon to Prospit, sending the moon plummeting through the atmosphere of Skaya and breaking up in the process. Dream John, still asleep, fell out of his tower and drifted down ahead of the falling moon. Dream Jade flew to intercept him and spent a moment attempting to wake him up before the moon's collision was imminent. At the last minute, she flung Dream John out of the blast radius, but was not able to clear the blast herself. She died.
The death of Dream Jade caused her dream bot to malfunction and explode, destroying her room. Still asleep, Jade fell from her tower as Beck watched from a distance, and an enormous meteor loomed overhead.
Elsewhere, on Dave's world, the land of heat and clockwork, Bro dueled with Jack briefly. It was a stalemate until Bro plunged his sword into the large floating record platform they were fighting on. This released a mysterious energy from the cracks. Bro escaped.
Rose completed her final GameFAQs walkthrough entry and used magic to seal it in a server in the furthest ring, to be accessed by players in worlds beyond their own. She had destroyed her first gate on a whim and resolved to search for answers to remedy the hopelessness of their doomed session. Meanwhile, Dave entered his first gate, riding into it with his awesome skateboard, Unreal Air.
The four exiles arrived on Earth years after its apocalypse, but years before they found their respective command stations. Wayward Vagabond wrapped himself in John's dream blanket, which became dirty and unrecognizable over time. He found it along with a Jack-like doll on the battlefield, which formerly sat in Dream John's bedroom, haunting his dreams. War-weary Villain ripped it apart. Peregrine Mendicant wrapped herself in a Prospit banner, which too faded in time. Aimless Renegade wrapped himself in caution tape using his own supply, as well as some fresh rolls he was lucky enough to discover near the ruined frog temple in one of Grandpa's old crates. This was after he escaped that same temple in the medium and found the meteor lab in which John slept. That meteor then took off for Skaya via the Reckoning. Authority Regulator taped John to the rocket board and cast him off before the meteor went through a portal. Thus, Aimless Renegade became exiled. The White Queen exiled herself with an entourage on a royal cruiser and landed on Earth. She departed on a solo quest, leaving her people to their own devices. She discovered her command station, a large egg, broken in two pieces in the large craters made by Dave's split meteor. She used the key to repair the egg station and teleported to the present location of the exiles, the Frog Ruins at night, 413 years after the apocalypse of Earth.
On the battlefield, Dream John found Dream Jade's body. He was sad and confused and took her ring as a keepsake. Later, Grandpa would land his ship on the battlefield, find and recover her body, and use it to create a stuffed trophy as a memorial, as per the proud family tradition. He would depart in his ship and leave Mom and Dad behind.
John saw a vision in a cloud directing him where to go. It was a castle where he would rendezvous with PM. PM, after beheading HB, used his radio to summon Jack. He came, and she traded the 2 white crowns for the green box, Jade's present to John. He appeared pleased to uphold the bargain, either out of the misunderstanding that he was still under control of its contents, or out of respect for PM's tenacity and brutality in pursuing the prize. Only he knows.
PM delivered the package to John and then left, not thrilled by the trials caused by its recovery. John opened it to find letters from Jade and her pen pal, who helped her make the present for him over several years. The gift was the pen pal's idea, and he himself was coerced into the plan by someone else. The box contained a modified version of the stuffed bunny John had received for his birthday twice already. It was the same knit-repaired bunny John sent back in time with baby Jade, and she presumably kept it as a cherished childhood toy ever since. It was now upgraded with mechanical parts, fully mobile and autonomous. It was also included with 4 powerful weapons: the Royal Derringer, broken sword, the Quills of Echidna, wands, Ahab's crosshairs, rifle, and the Warhammer of Zillihu, hammer. Each was shrunken down to be bunny-sized.
As John mourned Jade's death over her letter, he was interrupted by Jack's sword. Jack was after the ring, but the heavily armed mechanical bunny intervened, recognizing John as its new master. Jack, knowing the danger of the toy, was forced to retreat.
Finally, a cloud showed John what he was supposed to do with the ring. It was held by a mysterious black hand. In the far future on Earth, the exiles gathered around Exile Town. WQ asked WV for something. WV revealed he had been storing the complete, quad-prototyped ring in the sleeve of his trusty knife. It had been there all along, much to Serenity's surprise.
And then I started working on Act 5.